And thanks everybody for joining. We got a full room this morning on 8 a.m. Friday morning. So go ahead and go to the next slide. What we're going to dive into today is tracking skills and competency.
Yeah. I was coming back for it.
All right. My name's Ben Pearson. I'm our Vice President of Product Marketing at Volo. I've lived the healthcare world pretty much my whole life. My mom is a nurse. She's retired now. My sister is a respiratory therapist. And a little over a month away from marrying a clinical engineer. So I live and breathe healthcare. With me is Kyle Willis. And Kyle also has lived and breathed the healthcare world his whole life. And he's going to join me in this session today. He's actually going to dive into the technical aspects of our solution and actually give you a little demonstration. So we kind of dive into the agenda today. I'm going to dive in. We're going to make this really interactive. I want you guys to participate in this. I'm actually really interested in your challenges as we think about skills, HTM skills across your hospitals. If you're a service provider, if you're a healthcare provider, if you're an OEM, whatever your role is in the healthcare world, I'm interested in talking exactly how are you tracking skills and how are you managing that across your enterprise. So we'll dive into that. And then we'll talk about some of the challenges in tracking that. And we'll dive into the current state of affairs, the future state, and Kyle, like I mentioned, we'll do a demonstration today on how you can actually automate that process. All right, so Kyle's on. Next slide. You're good. So first question for you guys. First of all, raise your hands. Are you tracking HTM skills or competencies today? So raise your hand. Who's tracking that today? About half. And then if you are tracking it, raise your hands. Is it manual? Is it paper-based? Are you? Yep, it's the same. Okay, great. Next question. So are you tracking one level of what models of medical devices that you're skilled on? Is it specifically down to the model level you're tracking it at? Yep, great. And kind of what's your criteria for determining if you're skilled on a piece of equipment? I've heard a number of corrective maintenance work orders where you actually open the device equals skilled. Anyone who wants to raise their hand and shout out what is that volume of work orders, and is there a criteria around that tracking? They want to share their healthcare environment. I've heard 5 correctives is a measure, and they're actually documenting work order by work order, corrective maintenance by corrective maintenance on an actual report. Does anybody have any specifics they want to share? Anybody? Don't be shy. Center Health. What you got?
So we do it based on. So we do the work. They do the work on the device. They get taught first. You said method. They do the ODT first. They do the work on the device. They get. They have an observer watch the preventative maintenance procedure called check. They the form, and then they go back and they check it again like 3 days later.
Got it.
There's a loop process.
It is great. So just to repeat the answer. So it sounds like it's really as part of your PM procedure. You're going through a documented PM procedure.
PMs and framework.
It's both correctives and PMs. You're doing both. And you're
selected correctives and then we do
selective correctives and selective PMs. And then is that only required for life-saving devices, or is that for all devices? All models? For all. Is that consistent in the room? You guys all similar to that? Yes, no, maybe, yes. Okay. All right, sounds good. All right, we'll keep rolling. So the next question is, and a raised hand, are you actually getting certified on life-saving devices? Do you have to get certified before your clinical engineers can actually work on a life-saving device or not? Raise your hands.
Yeah, be certified.
What's that?
Yeah, be certified on anything.
That's a better question. You have to be certified on anything. You have to go through a certification process before you work on a medical device. Anybody?
So, but the other thing is, if you want an OEM contract on ventilators, well, actually, I don't even have it, but they won't sell you cars unless one of you guys does get certified and goes through the training. So, yeah, so, and then some of the schools will get them annually recertification. So on the imaging side, most of you probably know that if you want some kind of supplemental contract, again, you have to go to their
Yeah, so the comment in front of the room was, oh, it's part of purchasing equipment and getting parts for equipment. You actually have to go to that OEM and you have someone certified to be able to get parts for that, so that you can service that particular device. And that's kind of where I was going with that question. Anybody else have feedback or question, comments? Yeah. Yeah, good.
Yeah, I'm not sure if certified is the right word here.
Mm-hmm.
Certified, you're talking about factory training, are you talking about on-the-job training, or, if you're a competent tech, you just read the manual and do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't need rocket science, like people know that.
Sure.
I mean, if you're talking about high-end devices like the MRI, CT, or, ventilator, for example, you're talking about some kind of factory training.
Yeah, the specific question I'm going after, good point, is are you going to a training class? Are you working with that particular model of device, and are you taking a test, a pass or fail grade for that particular device to allow you to now be able to work on that device within a hospital? That was specifically where I was going with that.
And if you're familiar with one brand of that model, like your defibrillator, for example, I'm sure you can do 6,000.
Yep. Got it. So it's something you don't have that process today with the world you're
I
living.
would consider that,
Yep.
especially in terms of low-tech devices where you've got hundreds of models floating around.
Sure. Makes sense.
And that would require
A lot of training.
what?
So we require a lot of training in your case, yeah.
I mean, that would require a project like something to figure out exactly what level.
Got it. Good.
And then when you talk about certification, there are certification programs like CPAC and others that can certify people to work on devices.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean that they know everything.
Yep, that's a good point. Yep, CBAT obviously doesn't mean you've actually worked on every device. All good points of feedback, you guys. And these are all questions I'm curious as to what you guys are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. It sounds like some of this is either being tracked manually on paper or not being tracked at all. Like I said, maybe we just assume that the chemical engineers, they work on one type of device, they can work on any device that's similar to that. So that's an interesting point. And so for me, I want to talk more about diving into this a little further. So the next question is, how do you know who's your experts within your clinical engineering departments? Who you're going to cross-train? You hire a brand new HTM engineer. How do you know who you're going to put that person with to potentially onboard them, train them, get them up and running? A lot of times, raise your hand, step through just knowledge that's up here in your organization, or do you actually track what level each of your engineers are at within your HTM organization? Curious. Great. Head nod in the back. Any comments on that, or is it just knowledge that exists within the HTM team within your organization, or how do you know who has what level of skill within your HTM organization?
So we create competency checklists for each level, for each job description, how it is 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, whatever, and in which each one of them has all the different device types, modalities within each, and then we have a different checklist on whether you know, you understand, or you perform each of the tasks. Like, you do maintenance, you perform the preventive maintenance, etc. on each one of them. We track that on an annual basis for competencies as well as goal setting.
Great. So that's fantastic. So by modality, you're actually tracking across your entire set of engineers. Anybody else have any other comments or feedback they'd like to share that they're doing? Yeah, go ahead.
We actually have a database. We have our engineers self-rated themselves on each manufacturer and model number. And then we quantify who has had OEM, OEM type of training for each.
That's great. Nice. Great. Awesome. Good examples. Thanks, you guys. Did you have one up here? Any other questions?
Mainly just based off of years of experience working on specific
Sure.
devices, especially with imaging equipment. We have buses that, because they've had years and years or previous experience before they came to, like, I work at the VA.
Sure.
Before they came to the VA, then that's how we kind of establish
Makes
whether or
sense.
not someone else will train with them.
Yeah, typically, you're right. Tenure is going to drive that experience over that time in the organization, right? Sure, that makes sense. Any last comments on that one? It's good. I appreciate there's some variety, and it's good, and that's what I've seen when I'm talking to hospitals. So, some of the challenges, right? So, we kind of think about what's that process to prove that skills and competencies by your technicians, right? So, is it manual? Is it in someone's head? Do we actually have a more mature process, like some of the folks back here, of actually documenting that? And then, what is the process to determine those skills site by site? Right, if I look across all my hospitals, if I'm a large health system, I want to know what skills do I have at each of my sites. Do I need to maybe move engineers around and cross-train across my hospitals and locations? Am I tracking the level of skill, not just that they are certified, that they've done 5 correctives or whatever the measure is, but also what level have they actually performed against that particular model of device? Is there a cross-training opportunity? I mentioned that. Am I doing a certification, tracking and refresher training? And am I tracking that as well? So if I did send them to training, to OEM training, for your example, is there a refresher process? How am I tracking and maintaining that as well as part of keeping that up to date? And then as we look at talent acquisition, employee turnover, if someone leaves the organization, what skills just walk out the door? What models of devices were they skilled in? And now what engineers do I actually need to look at to potentially cover that scenario? If I now need to send a new engineer out to these 20 hospitals to support them, do they have the skills to be able to do that? Or do I need to send them to training or cross-train them as well? Moving HTM engineers around to new sites, obviously looking at that as potentially addressing that challenge. And then what's the quality, not just the quantity of maintenance that an engineer is performing to fix devices, but what's the actual quality? So specifically, how long is it taking an engineer to do a PM on the same model of device as another engineer? And actually looking at that level as well. Not only the time did it take, but did we have it corrected right after that PM was performed? Right, so looking at the quality of the work that the engineer is performing. And then what's that average time each engineer spends repairing a device? Do we need to train? Maybe one engineer is taking them 10 hours. Maybe there's ways we can do multiple PMs at the same time on the same model of device to reduce that time to repair. All right, next slide. So here's an example. It's hard to read here, so I'll walk you through it. But here's an example skills and competency form from a healthcare service provider right here. So this is a quality form right here. This is for one model of device. So if I'm a clinical engineer and I have to prove competency for a model of device, one service provider, this is what they have to do. They have to take a single document, they have to fill out the information, what model of device, manufacturer is it, the 2 items here, and then here's the 5 work orders that I had to complete with the date, with the asset tag, was it a pass or a fail, was there a work order attached, and who verified that this was performed. You think about that, just one of these forms for one model of device could take an engineer hours of their day to ultimately do this, one model of device. And this can all be automated, right? So this doesn't have to be a manual process. So this is just one example, and raise your hands, is anybody else doing something like this one form for one model proving the example? One person here, anybody else doing a form like this or not?
I can't even imagine. By models?
By model.
Yeah. So I mean, the reason we do these competency things is because we're required to do for regulatory compliance.
Right.
The true value of them, personally, I don't see a lot in it.
Yeah.
I think it's good to track, but really, what the competency is, people are fixing stuff. They don't have to call, somebody to help them from the outside.
Yeah.
So, do it by model, if they have that much time, that's great. But, you're gonna know just that people are fixing things and taking care of things.
Yeah, that's a good point. So to that point, certainly from a regulatory perspective, there's value in it. From a quality perspective, in tracking that, but you're right. The reality is that ultimately we just need to know what engineers are able to perform work against, right, to that point. And you have some of that data, but are you able to quickly access that data and be able to know if I tap on engineer X, I know that they can work on these models of devices if I call them in, or need them to come in and draw on call, for example. Right, so these are things to think about. So anyway, that was one example. One more question?
Yeah. So as Blake said it back right there, what we do, we have the competency for the each skill level.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the year, so I don't do this all the year. At the end of the year, I pick one critical item and one regular item off of that list for each tech after the evaluation. And that goes into the evaluation, the checklist, the skill list, and I pick 2 items off, one critical and one non-critical, and they have to demonstrate their competency on that.
Got it.
I said that all year doing that.
That's great. So your example is really used for performance evaluations, is really what you're doing. So at the end of the year, you're looking at a couple of critical pieces of equipment, verifying how did they actually do when performing work against those pieces of equipment. Got it. Great. So kind of the future state. One, you're right, there's a lot of overhead, is there value, but ultimately the value is making sure, one, we know what skills we have in our organization? Who's competent in what devices? That's what we really care about, right? That's what really matters. Can we automate that process? Can we track that in more of an automated fashion? Can we see where those skills gaps are across my HTM team and quickly address that, right? If I know that we have skill gaps, maybe we want to go ahead and staff up or hire additional HTMs to address that or take them and send them to training. Is there a way to do workflows and automate approvals on skills and competencies, right? Can we actually automate that process, right? And then what's that threshold? And being able to adjust that threshold to determine who's skilled in what device. And lastly, this is something you guys can actually put right into your CMMS system, is being able to do this natively as part of your maintenance management or work order management system. So this is kind of where, like I said, I'm recommending we see this go in the future, that this isn't a paper-based or a manual or end-of-year process, that this is something that's ongoing and automated, and you guys can actually see in real time across your HTM organizations, where are my gaps? Where am I skilled? Hospital by hospital, tech by tech, what skills exist within your HTM organization? And that's kind of where I'm taking this conversation today. I know I was asking a lot of questions, but like I said, that's what I'd like to see if we look at this in the future, is that this is something that's just happening behind the scenes. No additional work on your shoulders as leaders of HTM organizations, as the engineers yourselves. You just need to perform work. On the back end, we want to have this data to be able to show, are you competent or not, device by device, model by model, across your fleet of assets. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to turn it over to Kyle. Before I do it, I'm going to see if there's any additional questions on what we've dove into so far. Any questions from the group? Comments? All right, I think we're good.
So I'm going to be kind of sitting, because it's going to be hard to walk around for my laptop. Yeah. So I'll be camouflaged from the audience here. Everybody in the back, can you hear me? See my screen okay? I know it's a little blurry, so I apologize for that. But, so, as Ben mentioned, where I want to start with this in terms of our demonstration, and those people aren't familiar with the ServiceNow platform, Volo is built on it, really standard user interface, right? But where we're going to start today is really at the most basic level, which is starting at the skills, at the certification level. Show you how we're tracking that in some of the different areas there. So over my left-hand side here, I'm just going to go right into skills. So skills being the lowest common denominator, right? And you guys are going to have complete control over this. So like Ben mentioned, if you want to integrate with an LMS system, pull in skills and certifications from internal training courses and things like that, very simple to do. It can be loaded in here. But skills, right, is the most basic level. And you'll see here, we have some facility skills mixed in here. There's one table to track these things, which is what you'll see. So dependent on, either if it's by asset type, it could be by model. You'll see a number of different skills coming down the list here. And if I just use a GE MRI example, what you'll then notice is it's very simple, right? So you guys will be able to define your skills, right? You might call them different things. They could be different groups serving different departments, and you might want to call those skills out differently, right? So then going down below, what you'll notice is inside of a skill, the skill can be a part of a certification, right? So one certification could include 10 different skills. So you'll see here that this one skill, for example, is linked directly to our GE factory training, which we mentioned earlier. And additionally, what you can then do is reference those skills directly to particular groups. So most of the hospitals I visit, right, work orders are pushed into a group, an imaging group or an anesthesia group most times. And those skills can be directly linked to those groups, which means better routing for work orders ultimately, right? So if you want to eliminate some admin work, eliminate overhead around dispatching, you can use these skills and certifications to dispatch work more effectively. And additionally, directly to users, I don't have one here, but that would be how you would link it directly to a technician. Ben, anything?
Well, I think you covered well. And as Kyle mentioned, we would, a lot of organizations, if they are tracking skills certifications in a separate system, we would interface that into Volo and actually automate that process. So and bring that certification data in right on the system.
And then if there's any sort of certifications, right, paper-based, if you actually want a hard copy of that referenced on your records, always can attach it, right? And if you think, right, you also want to think, things are missing from here. If anybody in the audience thinks things are missing from the form, right, this is very, very basic. You can really easily come in and right-click, right, add fields for an extra level of detail, ultimately driving better reporting against your skills and certifications.
So Kyle,
yeah.
You mentioned, I know it's just a marker, but the 5 corrected, is this tracking that, or do you have to manage?
So it will, and I'm gonna get into that after we talk through the skills and certifications. So I'm gonna just click into the certification here. Actually, let me go back and use one that has some users linked to it. So certifications, imaging tech, there we go. So in the case of an imaging certification, right, relatively broad, but what you'll notice on this one is we have 7 certified technicians, right? So like Ben mentioned, one of the things that's nice about this is you can start tracking certified dates, renewal dates, and all of these records. So if I click into that, it's a unique record against that user who is certified within a particular task. And then what you can do from that, this might be on the right button there, is you can start to build notifications off this, right? So if I just right click at the top, I can go to configure, and I can start building notifications that say something like, okay, send me a email to not only the user, but also the manager, possibly the director, when I have technicians falling off certification or they don't need to go get renewed on their certifications. So we can start driving that there, and also like I mentioned, at any point in this process, we'd be able to create workflows, excuse me. They could say, if you want to have an approval in this process before you get certified, or before it's linked in the system, right? Before you start automating work orders going to that person, we want to approve the fact that they are skilled, right? Whether that's an internal test outside of like factory training, all of that can be driven through the system very, very easily.
Yeah, that's a good point, because even the form example I had up there, the manager review and approval to verify those 5 work orders were actually performed up to the right level. They actually did the steps as part of like your annual review of work orders. Again, have that same approval process, review process as part of that.
So, I really don't think that certification is the right term, because when I think of you're certified, you're gonna get a piece of paper saying you're certified. I think if you try to show people competent, trained or something like that, would be a popular. The certification only means that, they're certified, you're gonna get some kind of certificate. So,
Would you want to track those hard copy certifications though in the system against your technicians? I understand the difference, I'm just curious.
yeah, it's just the way you determine it here.
Okay.
So if this is what you're putting into your platform,
Yeah.
so somebody doesn't have to go to a school to be competent to
Right.
work on something.
Yep.
They're just trained, they learn it, and they become competent.
Yep.
So, I just,
Yeah, it's a valid point. So the reality is we're tracking skills, competencies, and certifications. It's, to your point, not just the certifications.
Yeah, and in terms of the terminology, right, this would be extremely easy to change the terminology of this. You can right click, change the name. So when we talk about, right, every customer of ours specifically is running, it's all the same baseline, right? They can have different terminology, different drop downs for this. So you guys, right, you can change it to effectively anything you want to in terms of what's best for your internal knowledge. But that's a good point. I think we'll probably have to change that up a little bit. So additionally, right, in your certifications, like I mentioned earlier, it's a one-to-many relationship. So one certification can, of course, hold multiple skills, right? So just simpler, so you don't have to do a lot of one-off skills in the system, pushing them to a particular person. Give them one skill or training certificate. I mean, I'm not sure what exactly we would call it quite yet, but we'll take that back. And that can assign them multiple skills. So the next part that I want to get into, we'll get into your question around the actual tracking against the model. But before I do that, we just kind of covered the baseline and the foundation here so far. Is there any questions about how that's being tracked?
So one question I have though is that in your favorites, you have a deal for skills and competency management. Is that an add-in? Because I don't currently have that in my version. So is that an add-in that we need to get, or?
No, so this is going to be a feature that's going to come as part of one of our next releases.
Okay, so it's not there yet.
Already core, but it's part of our next release. Yes.
Yeah, I need.
Yeah.
The whole process is like a restructure of everything. But what about the communication coming to that point, on that process? Because you can track all your tests, you can track what they know, what they do, at whatever level of equipment that are, but we get a call in and we dispatch the right one, chart, find that right technician, you go to. But you get a call that says equipment broken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, how does that work? How do you fix that part? Because it's a lot more there than our volunteer technicians. So how do you get that far?
Yeah.
That sounds good, but what about those parts?
Yeah, that's a good point. So his comment was, really that inbound problem. So nurse just puts a sticker on it that says broken, all right? The bed just says broken on it, right, for example, right? You want to know more details. Yeah. We definitely are, this doesn't solve that. All it does, though, is it does, when you look at that model of devices coming in, so we obviously want the asset tag of the devices coming in that is broken, it's identified as broken. Knowing the model of device can allow us to now know who is skilled, who is competent in working on that particular device. We do know that, right? So now we maybe find someone that can troubleshoot that down and figure out what on the bed is broken, right? What specifically. But to your point, on the front end, we need to be giving that person that says any broken a common list of things that they should be asking. Is it this, this, and this, and this? Those common symptoms that allow that engineer to ultimately narrow down. So it's not an 8-hour corrective, now it's a 2-hour, 1-hour corrective because they knew that it's, the airline or something they need to look at and address, whatever it is.
I create a whole instruction inside here.
Yeah.
A whole instruction, I do everybody, to be on point. But almost every facility, every modality of equipment that's there.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea, I see it.
Yeah, you're getting it. And I want to dive into this one topic more, and we can probably talk more about that front end request process from a nurse, and what are those common things you want to give them when they do choose it as a bed, for example. What are those common things you'd like them to choose as the next select to actually narrow down what is their problem with the bed? Not that it's broken, but what's the next symptom relative to it? Right?
Symptoms can be extremely helpful, and what I see a lot of times, and the idea with this is not only a manager tool, right? It's also a peer review. So we want to open this up to your technicians. So if you have someone new in your facility, I've never worked on this model before, I can reference one of these tables very quickly as a technician to see all of my colleagues who are competent in that model, right? So your teammates who can help you with that.
Good point, so.
I got one question. Are you looking at integrating this into the device type as one of the tables you can look, one of the tabs you can look at?
Yeah, in terms of actually pulling up a model of device and seeing.
Well, you know what it is. You know what it is.
Yeah.
Do you have that as an extra tab that shows, here's people that are.
Yeah, that's what I was going to show you here. Yep, and then also,
Yeah, good question.
yeah, so you can link, we're going to link, right now what I'm going to get into is how we're linking those competencies back to the models, but you can also link those skills or training-based approaches or certificates now, trying to stay away from certification, to models and asset types. Was there another
There was
question?
one more question.
Yeah.
There's 2 more questions.
I was just saying, correct me if I'm wrong, but the clinical users don't interface with this though. Like, it's not a work order triage system for them to put in.
It is actually.
Oh, it is?
Yeah,
Okay.
so we're gonna get to that. It absolutely is, yes, the question.
I thought it was just for management to utilize in terms of education of their staff, but.
Yeah, this product is a full CMS and does have a full work order management system. We're using that data to ultimately drive tracking of skills and competency across your HTM text and then report on it. So that's a good question. I'm glad we clarified that. One more question.
Do you guys have a good list of clinical skills built into this module?
Yeah, the question is, we have a pre-built set of skills today. We don't today have it pre-built out. We're tracking it right now based on a common set, but I would say that's something we could add to it. So no, that's good.
Yeah, so right now, mostly pod, right, in terms of what we see the most of is what we've added to this. But it's gonna be defaulted to whatever you guys are looking to track. And with the import capabilities, if it's in an Excel spreadsheet, whatever it may be, it's extremely simple to create those things. Any other questions before we sort of dive into more of the reporting and analytic portion of this? All right. So what I pulled up here now is just our list view of clinical models, right? So if I scroll over, what you're going to notice is my tech competency list. So I'm just going to filter out all of my empty values here so we see all the competent models.
Yeah, I can see the back.
So thank you for that. So basically what I'm looking at again is list of models. I just filtered out any that are empty in terms of competency, so I get all of my models here that have somebody that is competent at working on that device. So I'm going to use this one main model here. And this is just a standard model record within the system. And what you'll notice is this tech competency field, right? So this is a locked down field. And the reason for this is, and I can open this up because I'm an admin, right? So I can add people to this manually if I need to. But the process behind this is what Ben went through earlier, right? This is where we talked about, we want to make this match to what you guys are doing, right? I heard a couple things around, we want to track PMs and CMs in terms of a competent technician with this model. Where the way we have it right now, it is CMs. It's complete 5 corrective maintenance work orders, your name is effectively added to a competent technician against that model.
So, so what you're saying then, so you could have that complete 5 work orders and you call the OEM on all 5.
So it is condition based, so we would be able to pull things like that out. So if you have your service provider listed on the work order or anything like that, or PO, for example, a service-based PO against it, we could pull those work orders out. So it's just a simple formula. In our out-of-the-box system, we keep it pretty vanilla, right? Because of these exact examples, everybody's gonna do it a little bit differently, and that's kind of what we talked about a second ago. But it's all formula driven, so we can pull things like that out. And that's a great point, is pulling out things like service providers or service PO linked to that work order. Do not include those in your competency sort of verification.
And all 5 of those have to be approved, right, by like.
That's exactly right. So those 5, with that workflow process we talked about, they still have to be reviewed. So if, for example, they accidentally did go out to an OEM or a service provider to perform that work, we could flag those and not include those as part of that certification process, right? But the goal here is that once they've done 5 correctives themselves, and there's been an audit and approval process by the supervisor, then they get added to this model of device as competent in that particular model of device. And that's what we're doing daily.
Do you guys split it based off of like level of difficulty of repair? Like, because corrective maintenance can go from like something very small that's like very simple.
Yeah, the question for the rest of the folks is, do we do it based on the level of repair? And today we don't, but that's a condition-based rule we can set. So we can decide that, is it an inspection work order? What level of corrective is it? Am I doing a full corrective? I take it fully apart? That's the piece that we want to talk more about with you and each of you guys in the room. What's the criteria that deems it as a full corrective that allows it to be added one of those 5 or more, right?
And to that point, that's how this stuff gets better, right? These ideas, this is how we put this in. I mean, this came in directly from Ben and I talking with people, and like, we think we can put something compelling together to help, right? I don't think we're not trying to sell a silver bullet, right? We're just trying to aid in this, and it's going to continue to evolve, and it's going to continue to get better with this type of feedback.
Yeah, we've got a lot of hospitals already giving us feedback on this framework. It is a framework right now. As we continue to mature it, like you said, there's additional criteria, sending out to an OEM. We can add into the overall product and make it more efficient for all of you guys. Yeah.
How do you determine between, even though it is a correct work order, I had a technician went out and tried to repair it, couldn't repair it, or thought they repaired it, and closed the work order, and 3 hours later, another nurse called in with the same problem.
Yeah.
And so now that technician's got 2 work orders on it, one of them might have been failure, one of them might have been failure.
Yeah, valid point.
Or if
Yeah,
it
so-
was assigned to a different technician the second time around, if there were multiple technicians there.
Yeah, and that's really back to that approval process, that review process. It does need that level of scrutiny from their supervisor to make sure that were those 5, was one of those, for example, immediately followed up. If we look at the service history on that asset, we can see that right away there was another work order open against the same device, and someone else performed the work. Maybe that was actually not performed correctly, to your point.
One of the questions I'd ask there too is how do you guys track then when you do a repair, close it, but you know it's not necessarily 100% correct? Are you tracking that in any way? Is there any sort of like sub-state or anything like that? Just closed out, and then you kind of have an idea if something comes in like a day later.
Yeah, if you start seeing repeat events, then you know that some technique's training on something.
Got it. Or it's an old device with top repair versus replace too, right?
And we can also flag on a work order if a work order's been open within the last X amount of time, so we can be notified of that as well. If a corrective coming in right after another corrective came in on the same device, so we get some notifications around that as well to address that. And there's a couple questions in the back I want to get to as well. Yep.
Yeah, is there potential tied into like possibly a customer satisfaction question? Yeah, this is great. Somebody can go and get training, go do 5 work orders.
Yeah.
Close those 5 work orders. This customer has it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Customer has one call back and then we can
Yeah. That's actually a really good point, Kyle. It's something certainly we should look at.
I can pull that up.
Is customer surveying after this as well and making that part of that competency process as well as not only did I finish 5 work orders, I'm competent in that model, but also the customer's happy with the results of that. So that's a really good point.
Yeah. So we do have the ability to that question to create surveys. So you can create surveys in the system. For example, I have a customer satisfaction survey up. So what I've seen some of our customers do for this is like every 5 every 10 work orders that go out randomly send a customer satisfaction survey to whoever reported that work order, right? So you do have the ability to create those. A little bit off where I was going to go, but I just wanted to show that to you quickly for that question. Any other questions for me? Yeah, Dan?
So yeah, just curious, is there a way to set up levels of certification, especially when you decide how to know who the experts are?
Yeah. Yeah, you would. So when I had those certifications up, you'll have like I said, you'll have the ability to any sort of naming convention you want. So if it's a certification 1, 2, 3, you'd be able to create those as deep in any sort of level that you'd like to go.
Is this designed where somebody say at help desk, the go online and see, and set an automated because of the level of certification?
Yeah, great question. So when we are in our call center module, right, if it's depending on if you're using like a dispatcher, admin, help desk, when they're assigning work, assuming that the asset is linked to it, because you have to have that right to tie those two together, you're able to see by using the scheduler, whether we're integrating with like a Chronos or you're adding your schedules to Nuvolo or your CMMS system yourself, you'd be able to basically see who's on call, who's on schedule right now, and what skills do they have. So you'd be able to see next to the person's name, MRI level 1, infusion pump level 3, right, whatever it may be. So you can intelligently route that work that way.
That's a good point, Kyle. We can also, some of our other customers have looked at, can we also restrict work orders that you even assign, they don't have that level of skill or that level of certification. So that's another thing you can also look at. We could restrict that in the system if you wanted to do that, if you want to go to that level of compliance check. Yeah.
So, so your whole concept, what you're trying to talk about is, you want to, by calling certified, want to be one, you're trying to track this for competency.
That's right.
So, which is hard just by having a work order that's correct maintenance and flows, because anything could happen on that work order.
Yeah.
So, having it tie into the competency is not a bad idea, but it's almost the one where you need a checkbox or a couple, if that's what you want to do, that the technician could put down, repair unit with no assistance. And even if they repair it with assistance from OEM, okay, we're all about uptime today. So it's not about, oh, I fixed it myself, didn't need any help. I fixed it, got this thing up. We're trying to track uptime, which is like impossible. So, it's like, so really, that's why I like to see the CMMS is, so you have your start time, your finish time. Well, you could have closed work order 3 days later, so it was really down 3 days.
Yep.
So really, it's, you have those time stamps on most work orders, but really what should be on there is, an hour thing.
The downtime.
Make the text put in, how long was this unit out of service?
Yep.
And a lot of things really doesn't matter, is they have backups. Because the stuff that matters is, the stuff that's making revenue, and you have to have it. So, I understand what you're getting at, but really, you almost need a checkbox. If you're trying to tie it into competency, because just saying correct maintenance work orders, I mean, to me, it's not going to mean a lot.
Well, that's correct. I agree with you there, and that's why I think we could probably use like the problem cause field, for example, so you filter out anything that's like could not replicate, right, or a training issue related to work order, and use the problem cause as an extra level of detail in that competency. Like I mentioned, it's all condition based.
So do I hire a consultant?
Yeah. Perfect. Keep that in mind.
Good concept.
Any other questions, Ryan? Everyone back? Yeah.
So, maybe you just showed your reports, but just thinking back to when people establish goals for themselves, they say, I want to be a level 2, I want to be a level 3. Do you have a way of, setting up that goal for the quarter, for the year, and then serving those work orders in an automated fashion to somebody that wants an opportunity to do a correction on the device?
Yeah.
They haven't
Be able to reference their goals.
even if it's an assist or just to be aware that, you know, the bed, an ICU bed is down, and I will be trained on the medicine beds.
Yeah.
To sort of get them to that objective.
So right now, you know, I don't have a way to track goals in the system. Now, very much like we built the tables to start tracking skills, competencies, and users against competencies and skills and certifications, we would do the same for goals. So just like I have my table for skills, right, down here, my favorites, right, these are just separate tables. I could add one for goals, for example, and then we could have a request out there where technicians could put in their own goals once a year, right? And then you can track, populate that table, and then as they're accomplishing those things, you can delegate skills to them, right, that are already in the system. So we could do that. That's actually a great point. That'd be something good to add to this. So that's good feedback.
Yeah, then from a reporting perspective, I can get there, Kyle. We can see did they hit those goals or not, right? So you could cross-reference that back. That's actually a good idea. Like that.
Any others before I dive into this, start diving into the dashboards here? And I like that these questions are good. I appreciate the interactivity of this. Okay. So what I have pulled up here is just a skills and competencies sort of manager view, right? So this isn't something that the technicians necessarily would be looking at all the time. Our idea with this is reference, right? Where do we have gaps? Where do we have pile-ups of skills at certain locations that we might need to spread that love out a little bit? So in the upper left here, the first report that you're going to see is just a snapshot of that model table that I just showed with our competencies linked. So if I scroll over, you'll see I have all my competencies linked by technicians. So what this is helpful for, the idea behind this is quick query ability, right? So the idea is if Kyle Hollis is leaving the organization, he's retiring, had a great career, can't wait to go back to Montana. Basically, you can type in, you know, tech competency contains Kyle, and I get that there's not as many in here necessarily as all of you guys might be tracking, but the same concept holds true. So I can run this report, and what that's going to do is you can see my query being built across the top, and it's all drop-down driven, very easy to use, don't need to go SQL or anything. But then when I scroll over, what this is going to do is it's going to show me all of my unique competencies. So I can see right away we have two potential problems, because I'm the only technical or competent tech in our organization right now that can work on those two models. So there's a couple options. We put them on a service contract, we train up another technician, or, you know, we hire someone, right? So that's what this report here is used for, and you can see, you know, it just basically pulls back any models that person is competent in. Anything here?
That was a good point, Kyle. You could actually continue that query of seeing models that just you were confident in as well, right? Because that's the whole point, is what's that risk of an employee turns over, right? Just knowing what skills that we put over walking out the door in that case. Right.
And like I mentioned earlier, tracking the expirations, right? So this report here, very simple. It's just looking at by technician who's expiring in the next year, who's expiring in the next 6 months, right? So this report's just looking at what certification, what skill they might have. This one's based on certifications, but you can see that renewal date, when they were certified, and then the idea behind this is visibility, so you don't have surprises, right? You don't have a surprise when somebody's falling off of certification, and they need to go get recertified. Continuing down the line, this report is relatively simple. Just looking at technician certification, you know, how many do we have in each of our different sort of skill groups, right, or certification groups? So you can see, you know, maybe you have one technician who holds the majority of skills, majority of certifications at your facility, and you can start to see those pile-ups. Same with this one here. So looking at tech certifications by site, relatively straightforward, but at your different sites, right, you can see my sites listed across the bottom. I can see how many of each skill I have at that particular site. And of course, all these are actionable. So if I need to drill down into them, see who that is, right, I'll have the ability to do that. Additionally, what you can do with this is these reports, it's kind of like report inception. You can hold different parameters within the same report. So if I don't want to see this by site, for example, and I want to see what users hold these skills, I can see each of my users at those sites and how many skills they might have. Continuing down the line, looking at the skills as opposed to certifications, a little more granular, right? So this is the same report. It's just simply looking at now, instead of certifications, how many skills do we have? You know, laser skill, you know, fusion pump skill. And you'd be able to see how many of each of those skill groups you have at those areas. Ben, anything on this one before I move on?
I think it's good, Kyle. For me, you know, if I was a new clinical engineer working in a hospital, and I'm going to work on a device, I may want to figure out who also I should be working with that's already worked on this device over and over again, worked on this model of device, that maybe I want to go and reach out to if I have questions, right? Rather than calling my supervisor or my direct manager to figure out who should I peer up with to get help and support on managing a device, I can quickly look and see who is already skilled in a particular model of device. It's been here a long time and actually has that knowledge within the organization. So it gives them that lens as well to look at information up.
Yeah, so now outside of the reference, now we're going to get into the actual verification, right? How do I actually know in the system how many work orders I've done against this model? And not only how many, but what about the details? This is where we can get into some of those extra finite details of seeing, well, maybe we want to filter out anything that was a training issue or physical damage or could not replicate type work orders. So we're going to get into that here. So this nice beach ball looking report here is basically a selector to say, okay, and what I'll see down below is all my work orders basically by model. So this is both clinical and facilities, so you'll see some facilities data in here as well. But what I have the ability to do is right now it's looking at any work order that's ever been completed in the system, right? And it is simple, so you guys know it's close complete right now. We can change those conditions on a per customer basis. But what I would do is I come up here and I click the technician that I want to verify, right? So once I click this, what's going to happen is it's going to select that technician and query the report down below to show me how many work orders has that person completed against every model. So you can see by far, I have the most work orders done against a particular model of infusion pump, right? So this is querying directly in the system, seeing how many of these work orders. In this point, it is correctives, right? This isn't including PMs, but you can see how many that singular technician has done against the model. And like I said before, if you want to drill down into this, you can click down and see exactly what those work orders are, right? So this is where you can start pulling in the problem causes, all of those sorts of things to get that extra level of detail. Any questions about this? Ben,
Does everybody see the use case for this? Anybody, any questions or comments? Is there value in this to your organization? I'm curious. Raise your hand. Is this something you guys can see you using for your organization? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good. Good. And like I said, if you guys, I definitely want to hear more feedback and ideas. I like some of the other ideas of goal setting and even some of the details on OEM tracking and some of those areas. I think we can continue to mature this. So love the feedback from the session today, guys.
And this is gonna wrap up the session here. The last dashboard that I haven't covered before I turn it back over to Ben in the PowerPoint. This is just looking more specifically, right? The last report just showed by numbers how many work orders you completed. This report's just simply going to do the same, but it's going to show me by detail, right? So once it loads this report up, it's basically loading a number of different work orders that I've completed. So if I look at this one here, I can see a number of different things, right? So I can look up the work orders, not only how many have I done, but what the close codes were, you know, what the asset was. If I scroll over, what the short description was. You see a whole bunch of broken-ins, right, which I know you guys love. And then what took place, right? So you have a problem cause here. Unfortunately, these ones aren't filled out. But I could come in here and you could say, right, start filtering out things like training issue. So maybe I don't want to include this in my competency and those sort of things. But it gives me that extra level of detail of what was actually input onto the work order, right? So same concept, verification, but it's just a more granular approach. Any questions around this before I turn it back over to the PowerPoint? Yes.
So in terms of the front end of it, with the clinical staff requesting work orders through your guys' portal, what exactly does that look like?
Sure.
And also I was wondering if multiple technicians are covered under whatever model or equipment they're requesting, is there a certain like formula you guys do to determine which like technician should be assigned to it based on, even if they're all on the same level, do you guys have like a tracking of like how many work orders they have assigned to them at the time, what their workload is and all that?
Yep, you'd be able to see that from the dashboard in terms of like a workload balancing type report.
But it's automatic, right? Like the clinical staff can't just like choose who they want to be assigned.
I'll kind of cover both pieces of the question. Scott, I want to bring up the self-service portal real quick while I'm answering the second half of the question. So we actually do a self-service portal for inbound requests. I actually kind of addressed one of the other comments that was made earlier around having common things that we can allow them to check rather than just ready and broken. Right? But your second piece, we do route work based on a number of things. So one, we'll route based on site, modality of device, skill availability. So actually pull in data from like Chronos, Workday, or a timekeeping system to know what technicians are available for that particular assignment group. We can get very granular in that routing rule and process. So are they already working a PM or not, or working a work order? If yes, then great, we'll send it to the next technician in the queue. So there is some intelligent assignment routing based on tech availability and tech skill as well.
Yeah, and in terms to answer your question about how does work come in, right? Number of different ways. Most people I see like a split between, I don't know, it's usually 60-40, 70-30 type split between portal and call-ins. It changes everywhere I go. Some people, they don't even have a portal, right? And I know that that can be an issue sometimes. But what I have pulled up here, we do have, before I jump into this, we do have the standard sort of help desk call-in functionality where you can take a call, record the call, or create a clinical work order, right? But the idea behind this is one number to call. So your dispatchers can create facilities, IT, clinical work orders. You can pass those tickets between the departments if you're out on MRI and IT owns the operating or the computer that's the operating console and the server. Facilities might own the chiller, right? So you can push those tasks between different groups. But in terms of the portal, that's what you see up here. So this is just a really standard self-service portal, and the idea is very similar. We want a single system of engagement, right? We don't want your staff to be going to 2 or 3 different portals dependent on the requests that they're trying to submit. Right, so what you're seeing here is just 3 sort of breakdowns, right? In this case, I would go to clinical, and then I have a number of different options. So this is what I see in most of our clinical customers is reporting an issue is asset-based. So I have a tag, and I realize a lot of times, you have a PM sticker, a serial number, an asset tag on the device. It can be hard for nurses or staff members to identify that. And we have a lot of different things we can do for that in terms of taking a picture of the device, making the attachment mandatory if they can't provide an asset tag, for example. So that's reporting issue here. Reporting against a map is by looking at, I don't know my asset tag, but I know what room I'm in, right? So I report, I have a radiation pump down in this room. And then when your technician gets dispatched, whether a technician supports a particular department or a particular unit or whoever's on call, they can get dispatched to that floor, contact the person who reported the work order, and then put in the asset tag then, so you get all that financial routing upstream. And then equipment distribution, relatively standard, right? Mobile equipment, I need a pump, I need a bed in this room. That's perfect. Any other questions?
Great.
All
Okay.
right.
All right, you guys, we'll go ahead and wrap up. We do have a booth, 407. Stop by. Love to talk more about this. You guys get some more feedback. Certainly any other questions we had around self-service and work order management, love to show more. Appreciate you guys and all the action and questions you guys had. Lively group at 8 a.m. this morning, so thank you. Appreciate it. Look forward to the rest of the day. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody.